In the shadows of the Capitol, they're scheming in the night, selling out our freedoms for a pocket full of spite. From the border to the heartland, the wolves are at the door, twisting truth and tearing down what our fathers fought before. But I'm a patriot source, standing tall and true, with a Bible in my hand and old glory flying blue. Ain't apologizing for loving this land. We'll fight the forces of evil with fire in our stand. God bless the USA, we'll never back down. Patriots for freedom, wearing that crown.
Well, what's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Apparently, this is the Patriot Dad and SK version of the Patriot Source Podcast. NomDePlume is going to take a well-deserved night off tonight, but he will be back on Friday. Although we may have to talk about Friday, SK. I don't know if I'm going to be here for that. My kids are performing in a performing arts competition on Friday, about an hour away. So I think we're going to be spending Friday night doing that instead of the show. So you and Nom are probably going to have to take the reins on Friday if you guys still want to do one. But
no, please don't make us do it without an adult in the room.
I know you guys love that. But so NomDePlume is not going to be joining us tonight, but that's okay, because this is probably going to mostly be the SK show tonight. Because we have, well, I mean, I'm going to be here, of course. And I have some things to say, I'm sure. But we're going to spend a lot of time talking about some of the current events that have been going on, because I don't know if you guys saw what happened yesterday, but the tip of the iceberg got lopped off and was started rolling downhill. And the crazy thing happened. We found out that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been doing some things they shouldn't be doing, some things that our renowned SK and the other ladies that she partners with, things that they found months and months and months ago. Did you know that? Did you know that you are now starting to see the results of months and months of work? Not just work that the FBI has been doing, but work that SK, Data Republican, Lisa Logan, and in some small part, Nom and I have been helping to at least broadcast it. That information is starting to hit the public. And it's going to be awesome.
I have a question. If you guys are here listening, and you have heard me on at least one occasion, because I've said it 100,000 times, heard me say that SPLC pushing policy to Susan Rice under the Biden administration after the United We Stand summit. If you've heard those words, you knew all of this before it came out on the TV.
That's right. That's right. You should not have been surprised to find out that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been paying people to be extremist and to what appears to be instigate in a lot of areas, because SK and Nom and Patriot Dad have spent literally the last 7 months trying to help you understand the network and how these guys operate and the tactics that they use. And what you saw in terms of an indictment come down yesterday is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more coming, a ton more coming. That's why NomDePlume, before he decided to take the night off, titled this, "The Things They Say Isn't Happening Keeps Happening," because accountability is coming. We've been telling you for months, accountability is coming. And we're going to show you exactly how that looks right now. We're going to spend a couple minutes actually going backwards, because SK sent me a link to an article earlier today and had me read it. And she's like, I want your reaction to this. And I think it's important to go back and understand the genesis of how Tim Shriver and all of these dignity lunatics kind of came up with
Pluralists, the Soros and Koch merging together, and the $1 billion pledge. We'll talk about all of that so you guys can start making, if you haven't already, tied pieces together. You can start tying pieces together and your picture will start getting bigger and bigger, because we've already moved on to abundance and past that. But now the Trump administration and the news and the actual actions are starting to catch up.
That's right. It's starting to catch up. Just like we told you it was going to happen. We told you that accountability was coming. For the last couple of weeks, we've been telling you that things are changing. And I was actually a little bit surprised, because if you guys remember Monday night show, Nom and I and SK, we talked about how we just have this feeling like we're reaching a boiling point. You could tell how the media, the lunatic left, the fake and gay ass wannabe America first infiltrators into the MAGA movement, they just felt like they were reaching a fever pitch, like something was getting ready to happen. I just had that feeling all day on Monday and talked about it Monday night. And now we're starting to understand exactly why they think it is so important to remove Kash Patel. They're going to go after Pete Hegseth even harder than they have, because Pete Hegseth is the one who is executing probably one of the most successful military strategies in American history to dismantle the globalist regime that has been strangling the world's economy for 100 years or longer. They have to get them out of the way if they can. And the problem for them is that Donald Trump is not going to stop what he's working on. He is not going to stop the strategy that he's implementing. He has the right people in the right place. And now you're getting ready to start seeing exactly what that looks like. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, we're going to talk about the Virginia debacle that happened last night. I'm probably not going to spend a ton of time on Virginia. Why? Well, because after the results of the election, a circuit court judge, shockingly or not, ruled the entire thing unconstitutional. But we're starting to see some really interesting irregularities pop up across social media, people who've been diving into the numbers. And I kind of want to show you a little bit of what's happening under the hood as far as that election goes. And then we maybe get to some other stuff. Mamdani, we might talk about him a little bit, because I've been holding on this story about how epically, how much of an epic disaster his communist grocery store idea is turning out to be. And maybe we can spend a few minutes just helping people understand, like, why is it that all of these communist ideas fail every time they're tried? It's not an academic exercise. There's a reason for it. There is a reason why every time these communists get together, they come up with what they think is this new flashy idea, it fails. And that reason is pretty simple. It's because they don't operate in reality. So maybe we'll spend a few minutes talking about why his grocery store idea is going to collapse on itself, and the taxpayers in New York City are going to be stuck holding the bag. And if we have time, we might get to one of the most disgusting, just sick and twisted clips I think I've ever seen of Candace Owens in my life. It is horrifying what she was doing today on her show. So we might get to all that. What do you think, SK? You think we can get to all that tonight?
I think we can. I think we got plenty of stuff to talk about.
All right. But before we do that, you guys know we've been bragging on our back office production team really since Clipmaster Jake, MAGA Jake, and Guarding the Grid started just putting in a ton of work to kind of help prop this platform up, to help make this production a little bit more presentable. Because the truth is, SK, Nom, and I, we just like to talk. We just like to talk about things that we care about, but we're not that great at production. We're not very good at it. I'm good at getting in front of a camera and talking for a few minutes. But if you ask me to create content that's presentable and people like, I don't know how to do that. I have no idea. But we have folks who are helping us with it. So I want to highlight a song that Guarding the Grid, our own back office production team, put together. And when I first heard this, I was like, dude, you need to release this. This can't just be something that just gets, played on the podcast once in a while. And it looks like he's released it because it is that good. I played this for my son, who loved it. My wife doesn't really like this type of style of music, but she was like, yeah, it's good. But my son loved it. So I have a song that I want to open up the show with, if you guys don't mind. Can we do that?
Yes, and while the song is playing, if everybody can X out of the chat and go hit the thumbs up button, we would really appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not, and share the live out wherever you can. Go share it on your other social medias. Share it everywhere.
That's right. All right, so sit back and enjoy an original song from Guarding the Grid. Here we go. Wait, why isn't it playing the video? That doesn't make any sense. Hold on. Did that not play the video for you guys? Let's try this. There we go.
Born in the dirt, no silver spoon. Just a manger and a star. King of the broken, but the powerful wanted war. Carpenter hands turning water to wine. Feeding thousands with a line, but the hungry hearts still scream inside. Is this real or just a sign? He walked on waves while we drowned in doubt. Healed the blind, but we stayed shut out. Spoke truth like fire. Turned tables in the house. They plotted in the shadows. This man's gotta bleed out. 30 pieces of kissing the garden, sweat like blood on the ground. Friends scattered like ashes when the soldiers came around. I see the mirrors, my face in the crowd. Shouting crucify while waving palm leaves loud. What I've done I can't erase. Every scar I put on your face. The weight of the world on innocent hands. How do I live with these bloodstained plans? for the cross we gave you.
Wow. So good. The cross we gave you. So good. I want to bring that back up.
That is
Folks,
so good.
you guys can find that song. You can download it. It's on YouTube. Guarding the Grid has it on his channel. I think I saw Clipmaster Jake, MAGA Jake, posted a link to it. I would love to figure out how we can help him get this over on Spotify or something, because this song could change somebody's life. It is that freaking good.
You guys, I wasn't even in the comments. When they put up a video, I usually don't watch it. And I watched the entire thing from start to finish. I didn't look away. I paid attention the entire time. That is so good.
So good.
Guarding
So
the Grid. That's amazing. You can go to his YouTube. Yeah.
YouTube, listen to me. Before you try to demonetize this live stream because we played a song, I need you to understand that, yes, we have permission to play it because the artist who composed it is literally in our chat right now. His name's Guarding the Grid, and he's fantastic. So, and we have another song that I'm going to show you guys at the very end that the back office production team has been working on. So we'll be buffering our way out with another version of a new song. These guys are fantastic. Like,
did you see what he just said? Put that comment on the screen.
What did he say?
He said, thanks, guys. 20 hours of work in that. Oh my gosh. Guarding the Grid. That is amazing. That song is great. It was worth every hour worth of work.
Yeah, very, very good. I'll be listening to that for a long time to come, because for some reason I'm starting to gravitate towards that type of worship music. Like I love just, like contemporary Christian music. I get a lot out of it, and I do like, spiritual warfare type music, but for some reason, this type of music is really starting to impact me. And I've also started listening to a lot of like Gaelic Christian music, like Viking style Christian music. Like there's a band out there called Knights of the Revival that I feel like I'm getting ready to watch the series Vikings when I listen to it. It's that good. And it'll just like, I love it. Anyway, great job Guarding the Grid. This was fantastic. Keep it coming. And thanks guys for all the hard work that you guys do on the back end. Honestly, this show would suck if it weren't for them. It would be bad. It would just be three people up here talking with no idea what we're doing.
Oh, he just said thank you. It means a lot. The hope is that it changes someone's life. And I hope the same thing. We pray the same thing. And if anybody has anything that they want anyone in the comments to pray for them for, put your prayer requests in the comments. We also have a Discord channel. You can put sk.lol, skdd.lol into your browser, and it'll take you to the Discord. Or the guys in the back office, MAGA Jake and Guarding the Grid, might have already put it in the link tree. Is the link tree on the YouTube now? I don't know, because I
have no idea. We need to get them access to our YouTube so they can just start taking it over and doing all the work for us. So Jeff Stenbaum, Nam is not here tonight. He's taking a well-deserved night off, and he will be back. He's just taking a night off. So you're stuck with SK and I, which it's not that bad. I mean, I feel like we can get through the show without him. It may not be as fun.
We are going to get through. It's going to be fun. I'm here. Okay.
It'll be, well, that's true. That's true. All right.
He fired Nam. That's where he's at. Everybody's like, where's Nam? He got fired. Remember, we were joking about getting fired. Patriot fired him.
I warned him. If he kept up his shenanigans, he wasn't going to have a job anymore. No, I'm just kidding. He'll be back. All right. So as you guys know, last night, the communist dictators in Virginia tried to pull a fast one over on their voters and rushed a referendum to the ballot in probably one of the slimiest ways that you can possibly imagine doing it. Broke just about every constitutional rule that the entire state has built into their system to make sure that you can't have communist dictators try to steal a state like they did in Virginia last night. And at least out of the onset, excuse me, on the outset, it looked like they were successful. And it was the craziest thing, because all throughout the day, the no vote, the people who were voting down the constitutional amendment, which would give them the right or the ability to reshape their map to a 10-to-1 ratio, which is just insane, because Virginia is at best a purple state. At best. I think there was a 4 or 5 point difference between Trump and Kamala. Light purple. It is a light purple state. I think Kamala Harris won that state by just a few points. And yet the communist dictators in Virginia thought that they could get away with trying to steal 4 new congressional seats. And at least out of this, on the onset, out of the outset, it looked like they were successful. So the no vote was winning all throughout the day. And then at the very end of the night, where have we seen this before? Suddenly, it looked like the yes vote was going to win. Now, before we dive into this a little bit more, it is important to note that this afternoon, a circuit court judge, who, by the way, has been pretty aggressive in trying to protect the Constitution of the state of Virginia on matters like this, stepped in and ruled this unconstitutional. And not only did he rule it unconstitutional, but he also issued a statewide injunction barring the state from even certifying the election itself. So as it stands right now, the charade that the governor and the legislature in Virginia tried to pull on the voters of Virginia, at least for now, is stopped in its tracks. It's my understanding that this is going to go before the Virginia Supreme Court. I think April 27th is when it's going to be heard. I have no idea what the result of that's going to be. There's a pretty mixed analysis of it so far. Some people think that the Virginia Supreme Court will honor the Constitution and will say that it is in fact unconstitutional. Others think that the Virginia Supreme Court is just going to be a rubber stamp for fascism in the state, because that's exactly what they're doing. It's fascism in the state. They think that they have to try to steal the House of Representatives, and the only way they can do that is to unfairly redraw all of their congressional maps. And I don't think it's going to work. So what was the basis? SK, I don't know if you saw the details of the challenge to the vote, but there's 3 really important components of why the circuit court judge ruled this unconstitutional. So the first one, and this is good information for you guys to have, just because it's going to come up. So in the state of Virginia, there is a requirement that if they're going to push a constitutional amendment like this, they are required to do it in multiple phases. And each phase of that constitutional amendment process is supposed to have an election in between it, meaning they can do the first phase of the amendment legislatively, and then they're supposed to have an election, and then they have to do the second phase. Does anyone know when the last election between phase 1 and phase 2 was of their constitutional amendment? The answer is they didn't have one. They didn't have one. There was no election in between phase 1 and phase 2 of the referendum process. They basically just threw that constitutional amendment out the window. They said, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. They just didn't care. They could care less. The second problem, which is also a major hurdle for the communist governor, is that the way they were able to get this done legislatively before it turned into a referendum was they called a special session of the legislature. And the special session was designed specifically to deal with budgetary issues. Meaning, if you call a special session and you designate it for budgetary issues, you're supposed to only focus on items that deal with the state budget. But somebody got the bright idea that it would be a good idea to let's just change our congressional map while we're in a special session focused on budgetary items. And in order to expand the special section, they were supposed to have a vote of the legislature of 2/3 in order to expand it. They didn't even hold the vote. They just said, we don't care. We don't need to have a vote. We're just going to use legislative fiat from the governor to ignore the Constitution. This third thing is that there's very specific requirements in terms of public notification when a referendum like this is supposed to hit the ballot that they just totally ignored. I don't know about you, SK, but when I hear a bunch of leftists and Democrats lecturing me constantly about the need to protect democracy, and then I see them turn around and literally dismantle the very framework of the democracy that they created through their state constitution, I have a hard time taking them seriously.
Well, I mean, this isn't anything new. Same pattern. They repeat it over and over and over again, just like with Maduro. And they're out saying no kings and calling Trump a dictator and all this stuff. And then they're like, free Maduro. And you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, the same people who've been marching in the streets demanding no kings apparently are perfectly okay with a queen or kings in Virginia. They don't care. So why are they doing this? Well, the reason why they're doing this is because there have been several states across the country that have been forced by the Department of Justice to redraw their congressional maps. Texas, in particular, didn't just voluntarily decide that they're going to redraw their maps. The Department of Justice came in and told them that their maps violate civil rights. They required them to redraw them. And because they were getting ready to redraw their maps, suddenly Barack Obama and all the rest of these radical leftists decided this is a really good opportunity for us to try to steal the House of Representatives, and followed along. But I just want to help set you guys at ease, because I was kind of trying to understand, like, what is the actual impact of these states going back and forth and trying to grab a seat here, grab a seat there. Even if the state of Virginia is successful and they are authorized by the Supreme Court to redraw their map, they are only going to have a +1 tally in the redistricting war, meaning the Republicans will have redistricted 9 new seats. The Democrats will have redistricted 10 new seats. So they're basically just shuffling zero-sum seats on the board. And even if Virginia is successful, it's not going to have that big of an impact. So this is really just a lot of bluster and a lot of political gamesmanship. Both parties do it. Everybody knows that the Republicans gerrymander. Everyone knows that the Democrats do it even better than the Republicans. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's any more states that the Democrats can actually gerrymander to try to steal seats.
Do you want to know why I think they're doing this? I think they're doing this to try to get as many seats as they possibly can right now, because they have until the 2030 census, when there's going to be a whole lot less illegal people that are counted in the census, which is how the census is how your representation is divided up, and they know how many seats are needed in your state.
That's exactly right. Because the Trump administration has been very clear that they are going to clean up the process of the census and who's allowed to be voted and who's allowed to be counted. Because I don't know if you guys know this, I'm sure most of you do, your P1 and P0s, you probably already know this, but our census actually counts everybody physically in the country, regardless of whether you're a citizen or not.
Hold on, it didn't before. It
I know.
didn't until Biden wrote an executive order day one in office to change the census so that the census in 2020 could include all the illegals.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right, GP Walco. I was listening to that episode when I was at the gym with my son earlier. And this is another really important point, and then we'll move on and start talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center issue. But look, nobody knows how this actual redistricting is going to work. Nobody really truly knows. This could backfire in everybody's face, because if you think about what they're trying to accomplish during redistricting, is they're basically trying to take extra vote share in a district and move it to another district. So if you think about it this way, in order for you to win, let's say you're running for a seat in Congress. In order for you to win, you only need to have 1 vote more than the person that you're running against. So if we just use basic math, you need to have 50.1, whereas your opponent needs to have 49.9. So you just have to win the vote share. The problem that Democrats have put themselves in, because there is such a concentration of radical liberalism in large cities, that they are packing their voters into smaller districts. And in those districts, the Democrats are walking away with like a 65-35 vote split. So they're basically packing all of these voters into 1 district or 2 districts, and it's wasting their votes. So what they're trying to do is reapportion a portion of those extra votes that are concentrated in obvious blue districts and spread them out. But they want to spread them out in a way that just a little bit more Democrats are in the new districts than Republicans. But that assumes that people are okay with them fiddling with their congressional districts. Did you see even if you assume that the vote tallies in Virginia were accurate, and I think there's very good reason to suspect that maybe they weren't, maybe there was some funny business going on. The no vote was pretty damn close. And this is a state that went, I think, 5 points for Kamala Harris. And the people who wanted to change their congressional districts won by what, less than a percentage point? People in Virginia are starting to get a little bit pissed off that they thought they were voting for a moderate Democrat. And in fact, what they're getting is a fascist. They're getting somebody who's going to jack their taxes up, is going to take their guns, and is going to try to gerrymander their political voice away from them. How do you think that's going to shake out when you take what used to be safe blue seats and you turn them into purple seats? Now you're putting some of those safe Democrat congresspeople in districts where if you get enough really upset Republicans and maybe some moderate Democrats who say, I don't like the way you did this, maybe they don't vote for Democrat anymore. So the bottom line is this redistricting game is going to happen. It happens every cycle. It doesn't seem like one party or over the other is really getting a leg up unless Florida decides that they want to go ahead and do the same thing. And it seems like that's on the table right now. So I don't think the Democrats can win this war that they're trying to conduct. And I think they know that. But nonetheless, they're going to try because they feel like they have to. They feel like they're getting put behind the 8 ball if they don't. And unfortunately for them, they just got exposed because they went through and basically destroyed their concept of democracy on the state level after telling all of their voters that they needed to protect democracy. So apparently their new motto is let's destroy democracy to protect democracy. That's what the Democrats in Virginia are doing. And I don't think voters in Virginia are going to accept it. I don't think they're going to like it at all. At all. SK, are you ready to move on to the Southern Poverty Law Center stuff?
Sure.
All right.
I think we should start with that website.
I think we should too. Let's do that. So SK sent me something. Actually, should we do that or should we just kind of
Oh yeah, we should probably do that last.
Let's do this. So as you guys know, yesterday, Todd Blanche and Kash Patel came out and they announced that I think an 11-count indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center. And in the indictment, they don't actually name individuals or people that they were paying to create chaos. So the indictments as they stand right now are simply directed at the organization themselves. But Todd Blanche did come out and say that there very well may be indictments for people coming next. And I wouldn't be surprised that if we don't see that here in the very, very near future. But basically what the indictment alleges is that the Southern Poverty Law Center was taking about $3 million of their donations over the last number of years. And they were using that money to fund extremists and radicals as part of the extremist and radical groups that the Southern Poverty Law Center was trying to expose to the public. So what does that look like? Well, I just want to walk through for you guys a quick list of some of the people that the Southern Poverty Law Center was actually paying money to, just so you can guys get a sense. SK, can you real quick just maybe give people a flavor of who the SPLC is? You're muted.
My bad. They're supposed to be what they say they do is, countering hate. All this white supremacy, all of this really got going under the Obama administration with them, trying to stifle white supremacy and, all of the racism. Everybody was getting pointed at and called racist. And there were, the bigot stuff started and then the xenophobe stuff started. All of that stuff, that was the hate that they were talking about. They're supposed to be countering hate. And they put out these lists. They add all these groups to, what's it called? What do they call it? They call it a hate watch list, or I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically a list like you need to watch out for these hate group lists, and they send it out to all their networks of lunatics.
Yeah. And I can't remember the dollar amount that they raised in 2016, but it was I think they had like 50 million or 52 million, something like that. They went all the way to like almost 180 million by 2023. I think the chart that I have in there is from 2023 or 2024. But so that's how much they grew. They get tons of money and they worked like hand in glove with the Biden administration. This is how your speech was censored around all of the hate and harassment and bullying and all of that stuff on social media. That this This is what drives it. The SPLC, the ADL, there's lots of them that drive this. And all these organizations and university groups started popping up, and they started getting funding from the federal government because the Biden administration put together the United We Stand Summit. And you guys have heard me talk about that a lot. You've heard Lisa come on here and talk about it. I think even Data Republican has talked about it on here when she's been on here. And when we started looking into all this with Charlie Kirk, Lisa's been looking into this for a really long time because it ties into, she started looking into the school choice stuff and the social emotional learning and all of that stuff, because school choice isn't the good thing that you think it is, but we'll leave that for another day. But this is their agenda. And when they started having to coalesce and get together when Trump won, they got caught off guard when Donald Trump won in 2016. And all these groups started coming out of the woodwork, and they started to all work together. And there was some driving force behind that. And one of the driving forces behind that a little bit was the SPLC, because they know they have to divide the public. And when they're labeling people as being hate groups, and they're labeling people like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA as extremists and hate groups, once they started working with the Biden administration started implementing the policy that they were telling them to implement, because Susan Rice was in charge of domestic policy for the Biden administration. They put together this big summit, brought all these people together, and they made it sound all rosy and nice, like we just want to unite people, and we just want to get along, and we want to disagree better, and all those types of words were thrown around. And you had groups like Project Unite, the Dignity Index. You had all the bridge building arm, and some other ones sprinkled in too. The New Pluralists. This is where we started. I think the first post that Data Republican Lisa and I did together was the post that started with how the New Pluralists started with George Soros and Koch coming together, and they started this organization, and then they went to the New Pluralists. They had that meeting. Mark Gerzon talked about that meeting in that clip that we posted. But at the United We Stand Summit, New Pluralists were kind of like the top of the food chain. They were the one kind of, telling people what to do and organizing and getting funding. And they made a pledge that they were going to raise $1 billion for this effort. And that's where the whole bridge building arm came out of this. And if you follow us on X, you'll notice that we just last week talked about Braver Angels and, the whole bridge building movement with the Dignity Index and all of those types of things. That's what we exposed last week. And then this week this is coming out. And I was asking those Braver Angels people, why don't you tell us about SPLC and how they labeled Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk the way that they did, and all of the things that have unfolded since, because all these organizations are intertwined in this whole entire thing.
That's right. So let's do this. I want to pull up just a couple segments of the indictment. I know SK hasn't had a chance to read it yet. I don't know if you guys are nerds like us and we like to read this kind of stuff, but a few things jumped off the page at me. So I'm going to start with just a quick segment of the indictment so you understand exactly what these people were doing. So starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of informants who were either associated with violent extremist groups such as the KKK, or who had infiltrated violent extremist groups at the SPLC's direction. These informants were referred to by some individuals within the SPLC as what they called field sources. So between at least 2014 and 2023, the SPLC paid for their Fs in a clandestine manner. Doing so hid the fact that while the SPLC received donation money under the auspices that the funds would be used to dismantle violent extremist groups, this donation money was instead being used in part by the SPLC to pay leaders and others within the same violent extremist groups. That money was then used for the benefit of the individuals as well as the violent extremists. They were literally paying the violent extremists and the groups that they were supposed to be exposing. Catch that. That is an important point to understand. While they were out telling you that radical right-wing violent extremism is the biggest threat to the United States, and the FBI was partnering with the SPLC to define who those groups were, the SPLC was actually funding those very groups in many cases. They were literally creating the extremism that they needed to create in order to convince legislators and law enforcement that you, Mr. White Republican, were possibly a violent extremist. So who were they paying? Well, it starts out by saying $3 million in SPLC funds to the Fs who were associated with various extremist groups. F-37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia. Literally were funding one of the organizers of the Unite the Right Charlottesville riots that spun up almost all of what SK is getting ready to talk to you about. Catch that. Understand that the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, was funding people who were organizing an event that was later used to categorize American citizens as violent extremists. And we're going to show you a post here in a little bit from Data Republican. It is not a stretch to make the argument that they created the Unite the Right riots for the purpose of beginning the implementation of the dignity index stuff that she's going to start talking about.
Yes. And how many times did we have to debate, find people on both sides, and have to pull up the press conference and play Donald Trump's words and hear the reporter asking questions and pushing back, trying to get him to say something that he wasn't saying. And he kept telling them, no, that's not what I'm saying. This went on forever. At the debate in 2024, Kamala Harris stood on that stage with her whole ass chest and said that Donald Trump said there were fine people on both sides talking about white supremacists and neo-Nazis.
That's right. Sally Sly, I would suspect that there's a reason why they led with this indictment first. I have a feeling, just a hunch, call it instinct, after years and years of watching this process play out, that there's a reason why they started with the SPLC. It wasn't just random. So to answer your question, yeah, it probably can. And it should be. So they paid this person, the organizer, one of the organizers of the Unite the Right riot in Charlottesville, $270,000. $270,000 is how much they paid that person. They also brought up, let's see, F9. Is that the right one? Is that the one we're looking at? Yeah. F9 was affiliated with a neo-Nazi organization called the National Alliance and served as a F for the SPLC for more than 20 years. They were paying a radical neo-Nazi organizer for 20 years. And between 2014 and 2020, paid him over $1 million. $1 million. And not only did they pay this person $1 million, but allegedly F9 got caught entering into a headquarters of a violent extremist group and stole 25 boxes of their documents. F9 coordinated payments for the copying of the materials with a high-level SPLC employee who had knowledge the documents had been stolen. So the SPLC was actually contributing to crimes while paying people, allegedly. The original stolen material were returned to the violent extremist group and a second illegal entry by F9. So the high-level SPLC employee utilized the documents in part as the basis for a story published on the SPLC's website. This is unbelievable. They were paying somebody to commit felonies so they could write stories and paid this person $1 million. F Unknown was an imperial wizard of the United Clans of America. It's crazy. Crazy. They were literally paying an imperial wizard. I didn't even know
these things really still existed.
Well, they
to be honest,
probably only do because they're funded by people like the SPLC. Because if it was left up to the public, these organizations would not exist anymore. There's no need for them. But because they can get paid for doing this from radical left-wing organizations who are trying to stoke a color revolution, and make no mistake, that's exactly what the SPLC was starting to try to do, was to kick off a color revolution in this country and use violent extremism that they funded in part to do it. So F-27 was reported as an officer in the National Socialist Movement and the Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club. Paid that person $300,000. F-42 was the former chairman of the National Alliance. The SPLC website contained an extremist file webpage about this person. At the same time, they were paying this person $140,000. The person they were paying was somebody that they were profiling on their website as an extremist.
Listen, the only thing I can do is refer you to Matt Walsh's tweet, as much as I hate to do that. He said, "This gives me new respect for Jussie Smollett. He bootstrapped his fake hate crime and paid for it himself rather than having SPLC organize and fund it for him. Support your local mom and pop hate crime hoax operations before they're all put out of business by the big guys."
That's funny. All right, we're going to zip past this next page because I know there's a ton that we want to talk about. But the next one is just as good as the first one. Oh, it looks like I'm going to have to pull this up because I ran out of space for the image. So bear with me here. This is SPLC.
I would like to point out, though, that everyone needs to keep in mind, even though charges haven't come against individuals yet, you have to remember someone died at the Unite the Right rally. A woman died. She lost her life. So keep that in mind.
Someone died. Someone died. And I see you over there. I see MAGA Jake. We're going to get to this in a second because I have a very interesting video that I'm going to show you here in a moment of Nick Fuentes. Because you guys realize that nobody would know who Nick Fuentes is were it not for the Unite the Right rally, right? You know that. You know that that's where he became a well-known individual. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he have to drop out of college because of the negative press he received as being one of the mouthpieces for this organization?
Yeah, and then was it 2024 or 2023 when someone showed up to his house and tried to kill him?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the next one is F-30, a National Socialist Party of America. Let me back up to make sure I get this right. F-30 led the National Socialist Party of America, was a former director of a faction of the Aryan Nations and a former member of the 3K Club. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that the leader of the National Socialist Party of America was the former director of a faction of Aryan Nation and a former member of the 3K Club?
Now think back to all of those clips of the IMIP meetings that we've posted and think about this entire network again. Think about the Indivisible and No Kings protest and Ezra Klein and his ties even into the abundance agenda. He's literally an abundist. He's one of the keynote speakers from their conference. These people have all been working together, including the Maria Stephans, including Rachel Kleinfeld writing her 5 strategies. These people all coalesced and networked in order to make this whole thing happen. This is all orchestrated. Every bit of everything you're seeing with the socialists and the communists and the protests and the BLM riots and all of this stuff, it is all orchestrated.
The thing that jumps out at me, I mean, obviously the paying these people, these extremists to go out and be an extremist while they're reporting on their extremism is just mind numbing. But the fact that we are now able to acknowledge that it is in fact Aryan Nation members and KKK members who make up the leadership of the National Socialist Party of America, because I thought we were told that these racial extremists exist on the right. And yet what we're finding is that the SPLC was paying radical leftists who were KKK members and Aryan Nation members. These are leftist people. These are not extreme right-wingers. They were paying leftists who are racist and extremist. That's who they were paying. Unbelievable. F-43 was the reported national president of American Front and was a convicted federal felon because of the participation in a cross burning. They paid this person $19,000. F Unknown was a member of the KKK and married to an exalted cyclops of the KKK. I just paid this person $3,500.
MAGA Jake said stuff like this is why we can never let the left take over the administration again. If we do, these investigations vanish. Hell, they'll probably make the investigations illegal. You have to remember there was an investigation launched into SPLC, and I think it was under the Obama. Well, I think it was either Obama or Biden, but it was launched and it was shut down by the Biden administration without explanation. They just shut it down. They said nope, and I can tell you why. Again, Susan Rice, domestic policy, SPLC monthly meetings pushing policy to Susan Rice. And all of these organizations all working together to push policy to the Biden administration in order to get the things that they want, which is basically the Ameris thing, which is basically socialism.
That's right. So before we jump into looking at the article that you wanted me to look at, SK, I think we need to pull this up real quick. I saw this on X, and I think it's important to note that there's some really prominent people, Democrats, who have been heavy contributors and people associated with the SPLC that I'm thinking I'd be doing you a disservice if you didn't know who their names were. People like Chelsea Clinton stated publicly that she donated to the SPLC. George and Amal Clooney donated $1 million. Kamala Harris endorsed by the SPLC for her 2024 presidential run. Kamala Harris was endorsed by an organization that has been working with and paying KKK members and members of the Aryan Nation. Senator Chris Coons, Rep. Terry Sewell, Rep. Jim Clyburn, Raphael Warnock, Stacey Abrams, shocker, Bernie Thompson, Jerry Nadler were all featured at major SPLC events. Biden-Harris administration, the SPLC extensively coordinated with the DOJ on hate crimes and extremism. And that's what SK is going to walk us through here in a minute.
Well, you have to remember during the Biden administration, you had all those people that were charged with the FACE Act violations, the pro-life protesters that were not doing anything wrong. They were standing and praying, singing. They were arrested and charged with FACE Act violations and put in prison for extremely long sentences for doing nothing. They said they were blocking entry into the abortion clinic or refused to move or whatever. They were sitting on a sidewalk. They weren't blocking the door. They were sitting on a sidewalk. This is the type of things that the SPLC pushes with the DOJ. That's why all that happened. And then you have the Trump administration coming in and you have people actually storming into a church where services are being held. Parents can't get to their children. Children are scared. Parishioners are scared. The preacher's trying to tell them to leave. You have Don Lemon up in their face and saying this is our First Amendment right. I mean, at a place of worship. And the left is making excuses saying that's not okay. It's not okay to use the FACE Act violation to charge them. But all these abortion clinic protesters that were pro-life, remember the FBI memo that came out right after Trump took office? They put out that FBI memo that they found in one of the field offices where they were infiltrating the Catholic churches to go after the people that only believed that there were two genders. You can't change your gender. And they were pro-life because there were these, Catholic churches that were Catholic and believed traditional Catholic doctrine, and they labeled them as hate, like basically extremists, not hate, but extremists, so that they could infiltrate their churches with feds and watch all of these people that go to church at these Catholic churches so that they could charge people with violations.
That's right. That's right. So no, Cajun Patriot, I did not miss your super chat. I was saving it. I know that we have a rule that we stop what we're doing and we answer a super chat when it comes in, but this super chat is very timely. So I was saving it knowing that there was going to be a perfect spot to put this in here. SK, do you think the SPLC is connected to January 6th and Ray Epps?
I mean, could be.
Could be. And I don't think there's any reason to doubt that it is Very possible. And maybe it's not just the SPLC. Maybe there's other organizations that were doing the exact same thing. And why wouldn't they? I mean,
there are other organizations. There are other organizations listed right there on the same paperwork. Not indictment, but like the same type of conferences and policy being pushed and working hand in glove with the Biden administration. There are several.
That's right. So if the SPLC is sitting under indictment because of things that they were doing, and they're working hand in hand with other organizations, many whose names you are very well aware of, because SK has mentioned them dozens, if not hundreds of times, it's probably safe to assume that they're also being looked at as well.
Yep. Utah Global Diplomacy and Global Ties. I'm looking at you. I will find something.
That's right. All right. So I want to do this. Actually, let me show. So I think the back office team gave us kind of a funny little graphic about the SPLC before we jump into what I think is the bigger narrative that needs to be shared here. This is the SPLC, silliest political law clowns. This is who they are. That's who they are. Do you notice that they're wearing the coned hoods, but they look like clowns? Because the SPLC really is a bunch of clowns.
Did you see that one post I put in the Dropbox? The heading to my new job at the Southern Poverty Law Center.
No, but I'll find it. What's it? Maybe.
It just look for white. It's white floors and.
I don't see it. It's probably, is it in your thing? Your folder?
No, I put it in the main one. It's
right,
probably
I'll
under
try to dig it up.
SPLC. It's probably under SPLC, but it's funny.
Oh, I do see it. There it is. Yes, yes, there it is. This one's funny. I saw that. That's right. Heading into my new job at the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's great. That is
Oh
good.
my goodness.
Well, I mean, it's not untrue considering those are the people that they're paying to stoke chaos. All right. So earlier today, SK sent me a bunch of stuff like she always does. And she's like, hey, let's talk about this. And then she just kind of bombards you with information. But she sent me one thing that I actually went out and read. And I thought it would be a good idea.
For the first time ever.
No, it's not the first time
Congratulations,
ever.
Patriot Dad.
But I did go out and read it. And what prompted me to go read it was not like, hey, you need to read this, which is what she normally says. But she said, you need to read this and I want your reaction to it. And I was like, oh,
well,
okay.
I didn't even say you need to read it. I said, click on this one spot in the article, scroll down. Actually, I said, scroll down to this part and click on this link because I want to see your reaction. Dude, you should just do it.
Well, and I did. And I'm glad that I did, because I think that we should actually show it to everybody. So tee this up for us. What exactly are we looking at here, SK? And then we're going to go through it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think the beginning of it makes a lot of sense. And I think it'll help crystallize why we're seeing what we're seeing and the people behind it and the insanity that they're trying to recreate.
Should we go to this right this second, or should we go to the money first with the chart with how much money Southern Poverty Law Center brings in?
Let's do that first. That's a good idea.
I think that's a good idea.
All right.
We didn't plan this very well, guys. Well, I didn't. There's no we. I didn't.
Let's start here. So this is a post from SK back in October. By the way, for those of you guys who are paying attention, you are not wasting your time with this show, because if you've been following SK over the last couple of months, she actually started talking about this stuff back in October. Like she's been basically telling you, hey, pay attention, folks. The SPLC is really bad news. So in SPLC's home state of Alabama, Habitat for Humanity Greater Birmingham built 26 homes and performed critical repairs of an additional 296 in 2023, all with revenues less than 1/10 of SPLC's. SPLC's revenues are almost 45 times greater than the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Alabama, which provided over 19,000 room nights and over 13,000 individual meals to the families of children requiring hospital care in 2023. SPLC's 2023 revenues are over 85 times greater than Birmingham-based Smile a Mile, which has provided recreational programming and support to over 2,500 pediatric cancer center patients and family members. Where in holy hell is all that money coming from?
There's lots of places. Some of it, I found one I posted. I think I might have put the screenshot in Dropbox or not. I'm not sure. But back in October, I posted where Arabella Advisors, a new venture fund, donated to SPLC like $200 and some odd $1,000 in 2023. 2023 or 2024. Yeah,
This one.
that one right there. Yeah, there you go. New venture fund, part of the Arabella Advisors Network, 275,000, 2023.
Wait, Arabella Network, isn't that the same like umbrella network where we're seeing Indivisible and we're seing No Kings and the people who are marching in the streets? Aren't they funded at least in part by Arabella Network?
Yep.
So
and
Arabella Network.
Yep, this is all part of this or all the stuff, all the
so
things.
the Color Revolution organization, Arabella Network, who's funding Color Revolutions today, is the same organization who back in 2023 gave the Southern Poverty Law Center $275,000 to a new venture fund. That same
Yep.
organization? Huh.
Yep.
I wonder if they're being looked at by the FBI right now too.
They changed their name.
What do you mean?
I think they sold. Well, I don't know if it's sold. I don't know. New ownership. I don't know. They changed their name. It's like Sunflower or something now. They changed it from Arabella because everybody figured it out. But they're not going to be able to hide because they've recorded all of these meetings. All these people are all intertwined. They all work through the same. That guy that I was, was coming at Data Republican after the post last week exposing Braver Angels and all of that stuff, the bridging movement, or the bridging arm part of all of this. He came out and, made this post saying that, she was full of it. And he was so disappointed to see Data Republican posting conspiracy and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
And I went and looked his name up, and his name was listed with New Pluralists, listed as somebody heavily involved with New Pluralists. And I took a screenshot and I posted it on his thing and said, well, while you're answering questions, can you tell us about your involvement with New Pluralists? He immediately, when I posted it, reposted it with the quote, "This guy caught me in an affiliation." And immediately Data Republican went and commented, "Thank you so much for confirming your affiliation with New Pluralists." And then we spent the night working on a thread to be able to, again, show that these people are lying. They are lying. This guy's involved with the mediators. He's involved with Braver Angels, with New Pluralists. He's involved with all these things. And he's saying he doesn't have any idea what IMIP is, and Braver Angels and things. They are not affiliated. He came out and said that his CEO didn't say the things that he said. And when faced with receipts, he was like, well, it was premature, or it was misquoted. Braver Angel's own X account even posted it. And you can have their CEO saying it out of his mouth on video. And the CEO is in the comments of all these videos where the IMIP, all these organizations, the leaders from these organizations are meeting and talking. They're introducing him as the brand new CEO last fall of Braver Angels. And he was in the comments talking about how excited he was to be there. He was on the panel talking about what they were doing. And just last week or this week, they announced all of this stuff going on with the Dignity Index and Braver Angels and their whole network of people. Tim Shriver did an interview last night with Bret Baier on Fox News. Last night, Damage Control had to come out, do an interview with Bret Baier. Bret Baier was just doing a fluff piece. He came out, and then we have all of this take place in the same hour or two. You had Tim Shriver on Fox trying to talk his way out of all this, and you had SPLC's indictment being announced.
Guys, this is not an accident. Nom titled this before he decided to take that night off. The things they say isn't happening keeps happening.
You mean before you fired him?
I didn't fire him. He is welcome back whenever he decides he wants to come back. But he needed a night off. So look at this. SK sent this over earlier too. This is one of the first posts that I think she did on SPLC back in October. This is crazy. Look how much money Southern Poverty Law Center brings in, and compare it to other huge charities. Their money comes in from all over the world. There is something super shady going on here. Southern Poverty Law Center brings in more money than Rhodes College, more money than Food Bank of New York City, more money than the Brooklyn Public Library, more money than National Council of YMCAs of the USA, more money than Special Olympics.
Special Olympics is Tim Shriver too. His mom started Special Olympics, and he's the director of Special Olympics, just FYI.
Unbelievable. More money than the Helen Keller International Organization. And this money is coming in from all over the world, folks. There is The
Look where
color
Ronald McDonald Charities is.
let me pull it. Shoot, I took it down. Let me pull it up. Where Ronald McDonald Charities?
Next to the last. Next to the last.
Oh my gosh,
that
look at
little
that.
teeny tiny line is
A
Ronald
little tiny
McDonald
line.
House that supports all those cancer patients. That's the amount of money that they made. Southern Poverty Law Center, that's 2023, by the way. So Southern Poverty Law Center went from, would have not even hardly been on that chart, if on that chart at all the way up there from 2016 when Trump was elected to 2023. They're at the top of that thing.
Why? Because they are one of the conduits of the color revolution. That's why. That's why money is pouring into this organization and other color revolutionary organizations from all over the globe. The globalists have to separate this country. They have to break this country in order for their agenda to work. They know it. And the Southern Poverty Law Center was one of the first organizations that were driving that agenda in this country. And they were driving it through extremist propaganda. That is the first step in implementing a color revolution, is you have to frame your political opponents as radicals and as extremists. That's the only way that you can then move in and start to create more dignified conversations, is if everybody who might disagree with you is already known to be an extremist, because then it's easy to put them on the outside of what dignified conversations looks like. Did you see this from, and we'll get over to the article here in a second. Did you see this that just came in?
I was also thinking we should try to get that promo video that I think it was Guarding the Grid posted before the thing, because it has screenshots of our ex posts and stuff before anyone else was talking about it. I mean, even Data Republican didn't do her whole thread on them until after I posted this.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
Oh, the promo that he did, Guarding the Grid. It's on the Patriot Source podcast channel, but you might not be able to get to it. But this is crazy.
This is nuts. Folks, I mean, think about this in terms of SPLC, Color Revolution, their objective of framing their political opponents as radical extremists. SK, can you talk a little bit about this? Wasn't it just the day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated that the SPLC sent out a hit piece on him? Or did they list his organization?
I don't know that it was the day before, but there are also tweets from Charlie, if you want me to put them in the Dropbox. Charlie himself even posted about SPLC because, they put them on the hate map. And TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, and I think there were even other people from Turning Point. Don't quote me on that, but I think that other people from Turning Point were listed as well.
So Eagle Ed Martin posted just today or yesterday, they killed Charlie and they will pay.
I think they, just for the record, he didn't clarify who they are. But I would imagine when he says they, I don't think he's talking necessarily about SPLC or, any of the things that have been right in everyone's faces the last week or so. I think he's talking about the left as a whole and the NGO network and all of that. They all know. You even have Alyssa Slotkin, I saw on giving an interview. Yesterday or today. I think it was today on the TV giving an interview, and she's like sidestepping all of this because all these people know, those people, the seditious six, they all know. I mean, Rachel Kleinfeld is not a nobody.
That's right.
I mean, this is somebody who's been like heading up Soros organizations, working at the National Endowment for Democracy or the Carnegie Endowment. This is actual like intelligence level kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's been happening on US soil and they're not supposed to do that. But they talk openly in these meetings about how excited they are now that they aren't working for the federal, not Rachel Kleinfeld. I kind of feel bad that I segued into that. Just to be clear, not accusing Rachel Kleinfeld of saying these things. I will, in fact, accuse the people that said it of saying it, which is the people that were fired from USAID and U.S. Institute of Peace, like Maria Stefan, like Danielle Reif or Rife, however you say her name. All those people, the Horizons Project, these people, they sit and talk. They sit in these meetings all these heads of all these different groups, they all come together, all the different arms, and talk about their plans and how they're building the network and how they're building the funding and they're setting up all these. I mean, you can go to the Democracy Funders page, and if you're an organization that wants to donate money, you can just pick one and throw them money. If you are an organization looking for money, you can go to the Democracy Funders website and you can get funding. They bring everybody together on every level. It is the most organized, well-oiled machine I've ever seen, ever.
Yep.
And their whole entire purpose is to topple democracy. And they sit and talk about how when they worked for the federal government, they were not allowed to use the democracy grading tools that they use on foreign countries where they are trying to grade democracy to see who needs democracy now. We need to see who needs democracy now because we got to keep our color revolution business going.
That's
Who
right.
needs democracy? They have a grading system and they input all these different things like news articles and all these things into this tool, and they use it to grade the democracy. And they were so excited to be able to use it on U.S. soil now that they don't work for the federal government because, it was a little frowned upon when they worked for the U.S. government. Now
That's
they can
right.
do it, and they've been doing it.
Folks, I'm going to sidestep just real quick because I don't want to lose the opportunity of helping you to understand what this looks like in the real world. All right. So when these organizations and these people are in the or out in the globe and they're trying to identify who needs democracy now, what does democracy look like when it's applied in foreign countries according to their strategies and now being applied in this country? The closest example that you need to look at is what's happening in Virginia right now. Democracy, according to the color revolutionists, is being implemented in Virginia today, where they convince you that they have a moderate governor candidate who's just going to come in. She's just going to make things a little more fair. She's just going to clean up elections to make sure that they run smoothly. She's going to run as somebody that is palatable to the Virginia voter. And then the second that she gets in office, the boot goes directly on the neck of every single voter in that state. They start taking away your gun rights. They start taking away your voting rights. They start to make it illegal for you to even question the results of a vote. Then they start changing your congressional maps. They start violating the Constitution of their state in order to push their dignified version of democracy. You are watching in Virginia exactly what democracy looks like when these people implement it. And if you try to stand in the way, you're going to get run over. I'm sorry to explain it to you that way, but I can't think of a better example, real world, of what they plan to do on our national stage, except to point you to what they're already doing in Virginia today. It's fascism.
Listen, remember we talked about Ameris. I've said it several times. Lisa's said it. Data Republicans said it. We've posted about it. We can elaborate more later. But you need to understand that this was started, the Ameris stuff was like in the late 70s, early 80s. This one document is from 1986. They had a newsletter, a publication that they put out. And when they talk about Ameris, they're talking about the American process rights, such as freedom of speech, assembly, worship, and Soviet Russia substance rights, such as the right to education, the right to medical care, and the right to housing. And that's how they're trying to sell all of this to everyone, is by saying, oh, but look, you can have the best of both worlds. It's never been done like this before. Even though this has never worked anywhere else in the world, it's going to work here because we're going to combine the best of the two greatest nations on the planet, the United States and Russia, and we're going to take Russia's rights to education and housing and medical care and all the not all, notice it's not all the rights of the Americans, but we're going to take the rights like freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of worship. And we're just going to merge those two things together. And look, the U.S. and Russia is already wed. It says it right here. It says the U.S. and Russia are already wed. There's a de facto marriage between them.
But so where does this stuff come from? So SK earlier today sent this and she's like, I want your reaction to it. And as I was reading it, I was like, I think it would make sense to maybe go backwards, because what we've been talking about for the last couple months is really trying to help you see the networks of people. But I think maybe helping you understand where the philosophy comes from makes a lot of sense. And when I read this, I was like, holy crap, we've seen this before. We've seen what these people do when they try to get their hands on public policy. This goes back to the old Rush Limbaugh adage, the idea that liberals want to be thanked for their good intentions, but they never want to be held responsible for the results of their good intentions. So I'm going to go through this. This is it looks like it's an interview or a panel that was recently done with quite a few members of the Shriver family as they're releasing a book that was written by Sergeant Shriver, but never published. And now you have Tim Shriver, you have Maria Shriver, you have all of these folks that are members of the Shriver family who are releasing a book, right? So it's really important for you to understand the context of how we are getting to a place where Tim Shriver thinks that they can implement these strategies in our country today, because it's the same stuff his dad was doing back in the 1960s.
His dad founded the Peace Corps. Sergeant Shriver, Tim Shriver's dad, married Eunice Kennedy, who started Special Olympics. So a Kennedy. Literally, his dad started the Peace Corps.
That's right. All right. In 1960, President-elect John F. Kennedy asked my dad to create the Peace Corps. For the following 4 years, my dad met with world leaders to ask them to welcome Peace Corps volunteers, champion the power of young people to be peacemakers at home, build a broad bipartisan political coalition to support service to our country, and work tirelessly to fulfill President Kennedy's vision of a freer world. But in January of 1964, all that changed. President Lyndon Baines Johnson succeeded President Kennedy after the horror of November 22nd, 1963, and he had another vision for a freer world, an America free of poverty. In his State of the Union on January 8th, 1964, President Johnson announced an unconditional war on poverty. Days later, he unexpectedly summoned my dad to the White House and asked him to lead the war. My dad declined the president's offer. I dismissed the idea, my dad wrote, having my hands more than full with the Peace Corps. President Johnson was not impressed by his resistance and called our house the following day to speak with Dad. Mr. President, I am flattered to be considered, but frankly, I have absolutely no desire for the job. Johnson was undeterred. I can't give you a lot of explanations why I need you to do it immediately, the president said, but that's the way it is. You've got to do it today. Hours later, Dad was not only the founding director of the United States Peace Corps, but also the director of the Office of Economic Opportunity, whose mission was the elimination of poverty in America. And I want you to listen to this next couple parts very closely, okay? Very closely. While this may seem like ancient history, it's fresh in my mind because my sister Maria and my brothers Mark and Bobby joined together last week at the Johnson Library in Austin, Texas, to release a book our dad wrote in 1969 but never published. We called it A War. The book is our dad's firsthand account of strategies, politics, research, program design, and national mobilization that led to the creation of programs like Head Start, the Job Corps, Upward Bound, Legal Services, Community Action, and Neighborhood Health Services. But what struck me was the way the country responded. Republicans and Democratic leaders passed legislation. Legal activities like Edgar and Jean Kahn designed new ways of empowering the poor. Faith leaders like Reverend Billy Graham and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King championed the urgency of opportunity, and thousands of others joined in what was the historian Adam Green compared to a faith-based mission seeking justice, affirming equity, and recognizing the dignity of the poor. Folks, understand what they're talking about. He's talking about how somehow after the death of John F. Kennedy, LBJ implemented a war on poverty, and everybody came running to support it. All of them, from both political aisles. They saw this as an opportunity. Never allow a crisis to go to waste. The country was full of turmoil and change in the 1960s. Political violence, domestic unrest, social change, and polarization were all huge issues. And yet there, in the midst of it all, the country came together for a moment in time and rose to the challenge of seeking justice, equity, and dignity for those who needed it most. But what struck
gag me. Every one of those words, when you see those words, they don't mean what you think they mean. If that doesn't give you a visceral reaction by this point in time, and you've been here from the beginning, I don't know what to tell you.
I can't. I'm so excited to get to the post that Data Republican put out today and tie this together for you guys. I'm so excited about it.
We will. Excited. We'll get there.
But what struck me as I read the book and joined a discussion at the Johnson Library was that a huge array of American leaders responded to the call of dignity and created a formula for achieving it. They emphasized values in particular, the dignity of every human being. They were pragmatic and emphasized doing what could be done. They were creative and emphasized invention and innovation and listening to those who had long been ignored or overlooked. They called everyone in and almost never called anyone out. They had faith in God and in each other. What a total crock of baloney.
And remember, interfaith is one of these things. When he doesn't mean what you think he means when he says they had faith in God and each other. These people are not pushing the fact that, God is what you think God is. They think you are the God of your own surroundings. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, just absolute insanity. Folks, I'm not going to read the rest of this because it continues to go on and on. The point that I want to make before we jump over and look at something else is this. Every time that these social scientists, these color revolutionists, these people who feel that it is their responsibility to nudge the country forward in progress, they always look for opportunities to take advantage of. Sergeant Shriver, who details in this book apparently how he set up all of these organizations that we now know as the Great Society, right? Because that's what LBJ was doing, the Great Society. He was waging a war on poverty, using government to redistribute wealth, to provide equity and equality and economic outcomes to people. And what was the result of that? The result was that it failed. Just like the war on drugs failed, the war on poverty failed. As a matter of fact, every single person that the war on poverty touched, that these people touched and were supposed to be helping and lifting up, ended up in a worse situation not that long afterwards. Every one of them. The Great Society was supposed to help bring prosperity to the inner city. It was supposed to bring equality and economic outcomes. And now what you have is a larger, vast expanse between the rich and the poor, specifically because of what they did with the Great Society and the war on poverty. And we're expected to believe that they're somehow going to get this right.
Wait, you're going to have to go to your X messages, and you're probably going to have to screen share, because the most important article that I sent is the one that I don't think we've seen your reaction for, and we can all see it live. It's an SPLC website. Yes.
Did this one?
Uh-huh. Now
All right.
scroll down. Let's see, attacking, extremist violence. This is the United We Stand Summit with the Biden administration. It happened on like September 12th, I think. If you scroll down, it talks about what all they want to do, the highlights. This is after this took place. It highlights. Now click on Citizens Initiative, because go up to the bullet points. Let's talk about what their plans were. Wait. Yeah. Let's talk about what their plans were really quick. No, right here. So SPLC sent a letter to Rice. I have the letter in there, but you have the link right there. They sent a letter to Susan Rice, And they're asking for like monthly meetings where they can discuss policy so that they can stop this hate fueled violence and this hate, and extremism and all this stuff, right?
Mhm.
They have the White House initiative on hate motivated violence, new online resource finder they're going to put out. The Department of Treasury will develop a website of key reports and resources on the financing of domestic violent extremism. Just let that sink in. This is the SPLC saying that these are the goals from all of this. And this is what SPLC is going to do. They're going to take all of this stuff and put it together, and they're going to go sit at a table with these other people and push policy to Susan Rice.
Do you think the SPLC listed themselves as a funder of violent extremism?
Right. That's what I'm saying. They're even like, look, the Department of Treasury is going to develop this website, and we're going to have all these things. The Department of Commerce will award grants to promote development of programs to improve digital literacy and online skills. The Department of Justice will expand its United Against Hate initiative designed to build community trust and understanding and increase hate crime reporting. The National Endowment for Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities are launching a new initiative. You've got all this stuff, right? A new citizens initiative to address hate-fueled violence in America will seek to continue the conversation by hosting virtual and in-person public listening sessions this fall in communities around the country, seeking out firsthand testimonials, insights, and solutions on preventing and responding to hate-fueled violence. Click that link. Uh-oh.
Okay.
The Dignity Index.
The Dignity Index shows up. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me back up. I want to back up. Can I back up? So you mean to tell me that a new citizens initiative to address hate-fueled violence in America and what they plan to use to do that is the Dignity Index?
Yes, but you have to understand, before this summit was put together, they had all of these links already ready to go, right? And slowly, as the Biden administration marched on, these websites changed from where they linked to something different. So you have like the turntoward.us, you have the represent.us, you have, this was dignity.us.
Unbelievable.
I think this might have been dignity.us. This might have been turned toward. Lisa knows.
It is. It's dignity.us. That's the URL for it. Dignity.us.
Okay, well, now get this. Remember Data Republicans thread?
Yeah.
Who registered dignity.us the following day, not even 24 hours after Charlie Kirk was killed? Who registered dignity.us?
Wasn't it like Utah for global
Mormon Women for Ethical Government?
Right. So the Mormon Women for Ethical Government was just waiting for the perfect opportunity of violent extremism to just register this dignity.us website. They were just like, they had it in their back pocket. Like, hey, we just need an event. We need something that we can insert this into the public lexicon again.
What's one of the things that you have to have in a color revolution? Don't you have to have like a
flashpoint? You have to have a flashpoint, something that you can rally around in order to move the needle, to nudge society forward, to push people into the future that you want to push them into. There has to be a flashpoint. But this wasn't the first flashpoint, was it, SK? No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, our dear friend Data Republican actually put out what is probably going to be one of the most explosive posts that you're going to see in a very long time. So we're going to go through this. Okay, we got time. We got about half an hour. You guys doing okay? You guys over in the chat, you doing all right? I know this is a very heavy content live. I know that lately we've been doing a lot of just kind of like current events and stuff. But what was weird is after Monday's show, as soon as we went offline, the first thing I said to the team was, we got to get back to doing investigative stuff again, because it's going to be really important. It's going to be really important in the future to continue to dive into this stuff and help to dissect it so you can tie them together. Because remember, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. The Mormon Women for Ethical, whatever the hell their name is, the very next day registers dignity.us as the solution that is now being presented.
And I don't know how all these coincidences keep happening, but don't forget Armia Fanan, the the leader of Armed Queers, SLC, who got the 7 for 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals Award from the Utah Global Diplomacy, that has part of their funding from the State Department. She, whatever, was a Dignity Index coder at the University of Utah.
That's right. All right. We're going to go through this thread. I have not read this entire thread yet. I've read a lot of it. I'm assuming most people in the audience have probably seen some of it, but you may not have read it. But to make sure that you all get the full context of what we're trying to connect, we're going to go through it together. So Data Republican just earlier today posted how the Charlottesville rally and SPLC birthed an entire $1 billion plus democracy ecosystem. 11 federal counts, wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. But here's what the SPLC headlines are missing. The indictment describes a paid informant in the leadership chat that planned Unite the Right. That informant helped coordinate transportation to the rally at SPLC's direction. There is one publicly identified organizer whose documented role was transportation coordinator. His Discord post about running over protesters were made 26 days before Heather Heyer was killed by a car. Is it possible that the guy that the SPLC could have possibly been the one who actually ran the girl over? Wow. The indictment says that postings were... What?
MAGA Jake is on it. MAGA Jake said episode 7 for Ermia Fenian information. And that is exactly why I don't know, but as soon as we went off live, he's not kidding. First thing out of his mouth was, we have to go back to doing some of these lives where, like we used to do, where we were talking about our research and what we were finding and tying it into the things that were going on, because we were so far ahead of everybody else. When you go back and look at our beginning episodes, there are tens of thousands of views on some of those videos. I had no idea until like last week.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. All right. The indictment says postings were made under the supervision of the SPLC. Charlottesville team then became the founding event for $1 billion political machine. SPLC installed itself as that machine's definitional gatekeeper. She goes on to say, as always, patience as I pull together the thread. I don't know. Should I pull up each one of these real quick? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just, we've actually just, we just looked at that.
We went
that's
over
just
that.
What's this?
This is Michael Chesney, Discord user Tyrone, the official transportation coordinator for Unite the Right, posted a fake advertisement for a tractor-like multi-lane protester digester and said it sure would be nice to run counter-protesters over. In a similar post in the Charlottesville 2.0 Discord chat, Traditionalist Worker Party meme maker Shane Duffy, aka alt something on something, I can't see what that says, posted a picture of a vehicle driving into a crowd with the message, "This will be us."
And that's actually a picture of the bus below it. You can't really see it that well. All right, here we go. We're going to jump down to the next one. So it is not confirmed, and it is not a confirmed fact that Chesney, who appeared to be encouraging running over protesters, was SPLC's informant, which is the question that I just asked. But the indictment, paragraph 11A, describes informant F37, and it matches Chesney. Members of the online leadership chat that planned Unite the Right attended Charlottesville at SPLC's direction, made racist postings under SPLC's supervision, helped coordinate transportation for attendees. Neo-Nazi Tyrone exposed as a U.S. Marine. Michael Chesney appears to have posted 1,000 messages while white supremacist chat rooms and leading up to the deadly Virginia rally. And it says, just weeks before a white supremacist rally turned deadly last August after a neo-Nazi allegedly drove his car into a crowd in Charlottesville. So this is just giving more information on who Chesney is. I love the way she lays these out. She says something and then she shows you the receipt. Like there's no wiggle room.
Listen,
there's no wiggle room.
This is a dream team because Lisa and I put gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of information into a Dropbox, and she can use her tools and go in there and extract exactly what she needs, and then she can put it together in a concise way that people can understand, because I can't be concise. I'm incapable.
That's right. All right. So she goes on, and a Data Republican says, now here's why this matters for fraud charges. Charlottesville became the single most consequential founding event in modern American political infrastructure. Every one of these organizations says, in their own words, that they exist or were transformed because of August 12th, 2017. Stand Together, the Koch network, August 12th, 2017 was a tipping point. Koch, Soros, Ford, ADL in one coalition because of Charlottesville. All of these organizations, New Pluralist and other locally based efforts help bridge divides. Shortly after the attack, the Charles Koch Institute united a diverse group of partners, including the Anti-Defamation League, Ford Foundation, and Soros Fund, to walk alongside people in communities most affected by extremism to better understand the cause and to discover new tools prevented by related violence. They literally used the Charlottesville riots as the flashpoint to bring together Soros, Koch, the Ford organizations, Anti-Defamation League, all of them into one network in which the SPLC was the directional gatekeeper or the definitional gatekeeper for. So the SPLC was defining who these extremist organizations are, and these organizations were then mobilizing against them. You understand that? Holy crap. All right.
You can go back to our first thread that we ever did, and that's where Mark Gerzon announces the meeting between Soros and Koch. He even pauses and thinks for a minute, because he starts to talk about it, and then he pauses and says, well, I don't know what I can say out loud. And then he's like, well, I'll just say this. And he says, there's a meeting coming up. And it was in 2017.
Mm-hmm. She goes on and posts, ADL founded Communities Overcoming Extremism, the After Charlottesville Project, literally named after the event. So this, I think, is just a quick summary of what that, okay. So following the violent extremists, far-right rallies in Charlotte. Okay, got it. So that's just kind of an announcement.
There's one, I don't know if she put it in here because I didn't see the entire thread either. I only got about 3/4 of the way through before I had to come back here and get on here. But there's also one that SPLC has, and it says From the Ashes. I think I might have sent it to you. I don't know if I put it in Dropbox or not, but it literally says From the Ashes. It says out of the ashes, building a new American democracy. The erosion, this is from February of this year. The erosion of institutions to safeguard democracy is an invitation to imagine a new democracy resilient enough to resist authoritarianism and inclusive enough to serve all.
Chat, do you understand what is being laid out in front of you? Do you understand that now that the SPLC is under indictment for funding the organizer or one of the organizers to the Charlottesville riots, that literally was the flashpoint used to start a color revolution in this country. The Charlottesville riots appear now to have been funded and sparked by the same people who then used it to kick off a color revolution in America. I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. This is the reason why they literally spent years shoving down your throat the narrative that Donald Trump said there's fine people on both sides, because they needed Charlottesville to continue to be the flashpoint for everything else that they were planning to do. Everything. That included what was going to happen in the 2020 election. That included the censorship apparatus that they built and developed and shoved down your throat after the 2020 election through COVID. all of it was predicated on the idea that you have to weed out violent extremism. And that violent extremism was literally funded by the people who were doing all of that work. They framed everybody. They did this. They created this, and then they used it against you.
Yes. And look right there on the screen. Listen First Project. The tragic events in Charlottesville, Virginia compelled Pierce to leave his marketing job and invest full time. First event, Listen First in Charlottesville. If you've been here from day one, how many times have you heard the words Listen First Project?
Joe Biden said that the reason why he decided to run for president was because of Charlottesville. Kamala Harris was still using Charlottesville to attack Donald Trump in debates in 2024. Charlottesville was the precursor to bring conservative and radical left-wing organizations together under the same umbrella to do the same thing, which is to destroy the Republic of the United States.
But it gets better than that, because they weren't just bringing conservatives and radical leftists together. What they do is they say it's a bipartisan, a nonpartisan or a transpartisan organization. They have built these workshops where they try to foster depolarizing conversation and speech with dignity and learn how to disagree better. And they've modeled this after couples therapy. So if you think about it, when you go to couples therapy, how does that work? Does the therapist have to figure out which one of the people is kind of the weaker link, or which one of the people is willing to give? Because there's got to be some give, right? When you look at their after workshop reports, which is what that chick came at me for, and I asked her if they gave out surveys where people had to give information that they then took from them. And she was like, we only do these surveys after evaluations after the workshops. And that information is all posted in a report. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much for confirming that. And I went to the page and I looked at some of the reports. Their funders give them money. And you can tell by the report that the funder has an outcome that they want at the end. And they also tell you about the people that took place, that participated in this workshop. And they don't even have a section for conservative or for red. They call it reds and blues. They don't even have a red category because there are no reds. They have to divide up the left into different categories so that they have different categories. They have like far left progressive, like leans left. Like they have one that's like slightly red, and there's like two people, and each other category is like 164, 122, 89. They're all blue. The red one's got like three people, and it's like slightly red, like a touch of red.
I want to keep going through this, although we're running out of time, so we'll zip through it here real quick. Folks, if you are on X, go find this thread, read it, digest it, study it, understand it, because as over the next couple of days and weeks and months start to materialize, and the things that Dan Bongino has been talking about on his show, saying that there is a lot coming, things that he worked on over the last year while he was at the FBI that he knows are weeks and months away from materializing. Folks, you need to understand this stuff. SK, go ahead.
This is very important right here that's on the screen, because Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, I didn't even know this was in here. I don't think I got this far. Reid Hoffman, founder, LinkedIn. Remember when we did one of our first podcasts and I brought in the Democracy Playbook that was written by Norm Eisen and Jonathan Katz and Sarah? There's a few more on there. Sarah Corcoran or whatever her name is, down underneath the blue playbook screenshot with the 7 pillars of defending democracy. That plays in here. And you have, remember when we talked about Katie Johnson and we talked about Reid Hoffman and the meeting with David Brock and how they came out, they had their whole playbook that they put out. all of these people are intertwined and they're all working for the same purpose. The Media Matters, the 21st Century American Bridge, or American Bridge 21st Century, whatever it's called, with David Brock. He was literally a opposition researcher for the Republican Party. So he would research the Democrats, all the stuff about Paula Jones and all of that stuff with Clinton. David Brock was a researcher against the Democrats. He got dirt on the Democrats and gave it to the Republicans, and then they put it out. He switched sides, like mysteriously, like just like somebody flipped a light switch, and all of a sudden became on the Clinton team and worked with and for the Clintons from then forward, and still does. He founded her PAC. Her Political Action Committee was founded by David Brock.
Yeah, that's right.
This guy is the Media Matters guy. This is the guy who put out the call for all women, anyone that has any stories about Donald Trump, to come forward. They put all this money in. They were offering to pay women for their stories to keep them safe. They paid Lisa Bloom, which is why I was so confused when this woman came out against Swallowswell. When she came out and gave that press conference with Lisa Bloom by her side, I was like, what is happening right now? Are the Democrats taking down their own people? Because this looks like a hit on Donald Trump, but it's for this guy. I really and truly think they were taking him out because they were just like, okay, well, now it's time for you to go. We've used you as much as we can use you. You've got to go. And they took him down. I believe that. I don't know that to be fact, but I believe that. The other stuff about David Brock, that meeting, Reid Hoffman, their playbook, putting out the money for the girls, the Katie Johnson thing, that also the Lincoln Project, George Conway, he's involved in all of this as well. Charlottesville, there are articles that literally from credible mainstream media news sources talk about the Lincoln Project's involvement with Charlottesville. So was the Lincoln Project and SPLC and all these people working together the same way they were with all the allegations for Donald Trump? These people are so intertwined. I don't know how they've gotten away with this for as long as they have, because it's so easy to find and to track.
Jake, can you do me a favor? Can you pull them over? I don't really know where Nom sees those, but if there are Rumble rants, I want to make sure I read them. Can you pull them over for me real quick? And I'll make sure I bring them up on the screen and read them. SK, people are amazed at the level of knowledge. And I saw one person, Devil Dog, ask probably the most important question of the day. Is the S in SK for Sherlock? Like Sherlock Holmes?
No. But you guys, if you were here, I don't know if people caught it or not, but people have said my name a few times on here. And there are 2 people that call me by my name. Everybody else calls me SK. But 2 people call me by my name.
It's Saskahana.
And I said, okay, it's fine. You can call me my name. And so I let one of my favorite people call me my name on here, but nobody even said it. I was really surprised that nobody was saying in the comments, like, what? Why is she calling
it is like the most common name on the planet. So it's not going to be a shocker.
It is. It's not gonna be a shocker for anybody.
No, it's not. All right. So we have a Rumble rant, $20 Rumble rant from Boggs Clan. Wow. Thanks, Boggs. You all bring receipts. Go back to your roots. God bless PSP. Yeah. It's not that we left our roots. It's that sometimes it's fun to get into current events and stuff. And honestly, there's been a lot of lull happening. We've been waiting for this stuff to finally materialize, and now it's time. So we're going to get back to what we know that we do really well. We're going to lean heavily on SK and her incredible depth of knowledge as we do this, but it's time for us to truly spend time explaining what's going on, because accountability is coming. Accountability is not coming. It's here. The beginning of accountability is here. So we had another Rumble rant from Family Crest, more like SPLCIA. That is right, because the CIA was actually using the SPLC to help them define targets.
The chat, you guys, we have the best chat on the internet. I say that all the time. I'm not joking. You guys are the best chat ever. Look at these comments. These comments would never happen on TikTok if somebody said my name on TikTok.
Nope.
Everybody's like, oh no, we heard. We just respect your privacy. We caught it, but you'll always just be SK. You guys are the best. Like, truly, you guys are the best.
That's right. That's right. We could keep going, but we're getting pretty close to time, and I want to make sure that we wrap with 2 things. And we'll get back to this. I don't think we're done with this thread. I think maybe Nom and SK, if you guys want to spend more time on this on Friday, it's probably a good idea to. I think I'll probably start making some short form content about it over the next few days. But there's 2 things that I want to get to. Just to kind of share with you guys, for those of you who are a part of the Nothing is Happening crowd, I want to assure you that things are happening. A lot of things are happening. Things that you don't even know should be happening are happening. Did you guys see John Solomon on, I think he was on Glenn Beck today? Well, I'm going to show you, because John Solomon is getting ready to bring the heat. And so is the FBI, and so is the Department of Justice. Here's John Solomon.
At least this one was announced by the DOJ. I mean,
yeah.
It looks like we're going to prosecute here. More investigations on nonprofits coming?
Yeah, I think we're about to enter into, we have MAGA, we have MAHA, we have all these great acronyms. I think we're about to enter into a period of MAAA, Make America Accountable Again. I think with Pam Bondi moved aside, the speed at which the Justice Department will move on things that have been working in the system for months is picking up. And so,
did you notice that Glenn Beck called out more indictments for nonprofit organizations? If you guys have been paying close attention, I've been quietly, subtly asking SK for several weeks now, hey, are we going to see some indictments? And she always, with the same smile on her face, always says, yeah, they're coming. They're coming.
Oh, well, I say, I don't know.
They're coming. They're coming. The SPLC is just the first. It's the beginning of the beginning, as Dan Bongino described today. And they're doing it this way on purpose. That's just my opinion. I suspect they are getting ready to start laying out the entire network for you. But good news is you already know all the names. You already know all the players. You already know how these networks fit together. You already know where the funding comes from. You know how they coordinate together. And most important, because we've had the right people on this show, you know exactly what they're trying to accomplish, which is what most people aren't going to understand. Like, what's the big deal? You got some NGOs. Who cares? They're out there as a nonprofit. They're there to help people. No. They're not here to help anybody except themselves. They are here to topple the constitutional republic of the United States. And you already know that.
There'll be more nonprofits that were doing things that probably are not allowed under the tax code. If you incorporate yourself to say, we want a tax exemption because we're going to do public good, and you obstruct law enforcement proceedings on the streets of Minnesota or somewhere else, you're probably in danger of having committed fraud. So I would look and see, I'm watching, I think there'll be more indictments in the nonprofit realm. Then we're looking at those who may have given false testimony or obstructed Congress. We know John Brennan was referred for that. James Comey was targeted for that. I think those are on the table right now. Then those who may have gone and gotten phone records and pierced the privacy of individuals, they're next in line. So this line keeps moving. And then I think in the summer and fall.
All right, hold on, folks. You're getting ready to hear something that you've not heard before. Okay, so perk up, pay attention. You've not heard about this before.
Fall, we're going to talk a lot more about a case called Operation Round River. It may be the most troubling of the four.
Oh my gosh!
Round River. Just remember that name. What we believe it is. Yeah. So it.
SK, I know you haven't heard this yet. I'm going to love SK's reaction to this.
Falls between Crossfire Hurricane and then Plasmic Echo and Arctic Frost. Plasmic Echo and Arctic Frost are sort of the things that evolve into Jack Smith's investigations. The classified documents is Plasmic Echo. Arctic Frost is the idea. Years later, we're going to go back and charge President Trump with a conspiracy because he and his people wanted to have alternate electors. Now, it's important in that Arctic Frost, which there was a great hearing on yesterday, 2 times in history before this, presidential candidates did submit alternate electors to Congress. 1960, John Kennedy, 1876, Sam Tilden. Neither time were those considered criminal acts, but in Donald Trump's world, he's considered a criminal for doing the third time.
Does he mention the Transition Integrity Project at all? And the fact that Podesta and that whole group are the ones that even came up with this plan to begin with?
Yeah,
War Game number 3. Look up Transition Integrity Project, War Game number 3.
if you are going to investigate the grand conspiracy, then you have to include the conspiracy to try to accuse the president and his delegates of committing some crime by challenging the results of an election, which, by the way, as John Solomon mentioned, and we have debated until we were blue in the face over on TikTok over the last 2 years, that is not a crime, that is actually written, or it was written into our Constitution. The ability to challenge electors. The 12th Amendment tells you exactly how you're supposed to challenge electors, and they followed it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's just habit because we talked about it so many times. It's like a script at this point. People actually think you're reading it. But the 12th Amendment, yes. You also have the Electoral Count Act, which if Donald Trump and the Republicans weren't doing anything wrong, why did they have to go and change the Electoral Count Act to make it harder to challenge electoral votes? Isn't that weird?
Well, it's weird if you want to try to create the impression that it was illegal the entire time. But you notice they did that very quietly. Nobody really talked about the fact that they changed the Electoral Count Act. They didn't talk about it because they knew that what Donald Trump and his team did was fully legal. And not only was it legal, but it was probably the reason why the Capitol bomber, the guy who set the incendiary devices, was ever set out to go do that in the first place. But we'll get to that. All right, let's listen to the rest of this. I want to hear what John Solomon has to say, and then we're going to play a quick outro, a brand new outro for you guys, and then we'll wrap and then see you on Friday.
That's what Audit Cross is. But between that, when Russia collusion and Crossfire Hurricane was ending, the FBI opened up a new investigation called Round River, and its goal was to neutralize anyone who would dare suggest that there was a corrupt relationship between Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and the Ukrainian government or the Ukrainian company Burisma, and to treat people who talked about it with certain speech parameters as national security threats. And I'm working hard to get those files declassified. And I think that's going to be the most troubling, because I believe if what we're being told is true, and I want to check it until we get it there may have been speech parameters as the reason you were targeted. If you said something, you might have been assessed a security threat as a security threat by the FBI. That would be very troubling.
Oh, I was definitely on that list. You can bet your ass my name's on that list, and I'm sure SK's name was on that list too.
Probably. I always say I'm probably on all the lists. If there's a list, I'm probably on it, is what I always say, just on my search history on the internet alone. But while you're playing the rest of this, you need to check your text.
Okay.
I've seen some evidence in court filings in the last few days that entire law firms had their client records taken secretly under this investigation, or spinoffs from it. You're supposed to have some privacy when you have a relationship with you and your lawyer. So we'll see where that leads. But all the people I've talked to in government think that Round River may be the most jaw-dropping of the 4 codename investigations that targeted Donald Trump and his followers.
Yeah, folks. This is just the beginning. I know SK wanted me to pull something else up. I don't know if I have time. So let's save that for Friday. But we do need to give a shout out. Can we do a shout out? You want to give a shout out?
It's that article that you talked about when Lisa was here. She did that 4-part article series, and we talked about some of the aspects we were really talking and trying to introduce early, because you guys just watch. You're going to start seeing abundance, and you're going to hear a lot about the abundance agenda after Lisa was here and we all talked about it with you. But she has a 4-part series from January 18th of 2023, over 3 years ago, on the United We Stand Summit and what all was going on. She also touches on social emotional learning and all of those things through there. But there's a clip of Biden at the United We Stand Summit talking, and it is very eye-opening, and everyone needs to go look at it. It's on I Am Lisa Logan on X, and there's a link on that post. I think I've reposted it too. I'll repost it again right now so you can see it. And there is a link on there to her 4-part series. It was in the ohiopressnetwork.com.
That's right. All right, folks. So Patriotic Critical Thinker, a member for 2 months. Thank you for your membership. Been waiting for you to mention Candace. Candace Owens is a bot and paid for, and you can bet your rear end that she's absolutely part of this network that has been implementing a color revolution on the United States. I think her vein of this network comes out directly out of the city of London, out of the British globalist system. They're all part of the same thing. The video I was going to show you of Candace Owens is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen, but you've probably seen it, or you can go find it on X. Apparently today she was encouraging her army of wino mommy sleuths, the slop propaganda cult members, to do their research and to go find Charlie Kirk's grave. That's where she's at right now. She wants her investigators, her mommy sleuths, her winos, to go dig up the location of Charlie Kirk's grave. Folks, we're getting close to like necromancy territory with this woman. This cult is starting to get into necromancy. That's where the occult is heading with these people. They need to know where he's buried. Why do they need to know where he's buried? Why is it any of their business where he's buried? What are they going to do with that information? Are they planning to do something with it? I'm just asking questions. It's starting to get really disgusting when you have a podcaster who thinks it's her right to know where the private burial site of a private citizen is. It's gross, disgusting. We may talk about that Friday. All right, folks. What's this? What's this say? How many other YouTubers can tell their audience to do that and still have a channel? Yeah, that's a great question. That is an amazing question. How many other people out there can encourage their audience to go find the grave site of a private citizen?
I just want to say you can go to the Patriot Source X account, PS Pod 25 on X, and I just reposted that part 2 of our 4-part article series, but you can find all 4 parts there in the thread. And if you haven't looked at her X account, you should do that, because even the pinned post, there are threads upon threads just in the pinned post. So if you're somebody that likes to research and learn and dig and like actual substance in tweets, go there, because she has videos, she has articles, she has information all in those tweets. It's incredible.
That's right. All right, folks, on the way out, don't leave too soon, because remember, I'm showing you a new outro video, a song really, that the back office production team created. This does not have any scrolling media with it. It's just the song with an image. I've asked GuardingTheGrid to start adding and layering in some additional content over top of it, and he said he's working on it already. But you need to hear this song. SK, you've probably not heard this song yet. All right, folks, this was fun. I hope you got a lot out of it. I will not be here on Friday. Nom and SK hopefully will. If for some reason they're not, we will let you know. But otherwise, Patriot Source Podcast. We'll see you guys later. Have a great night.
Good night, guys.
Trading sacred liberties for power, gold, and twisted dreams. From the broken borders to the fields our forefathers tilled. The enemy is prowling, truth is silenced on or killed. But I'm a patriot source, forged in fire, standing tall. Bible as my sword and Old Glory as my core. No apologies for loving this blood-bought land. We'll charge the gates of darkness with the fire of the righteous stand. God bless the USA. We'll never bend or break. Patriots of freedom, warriors wide awake. They laugh at heaven's mercy, call our faith a dying flame. But when the storm clouds gather, we invoke the holy name. The serpent weaves through statutes, twisting justice into chains. Yet with God as our commander, victory still remains. Truth and justice we decree.